Oh, Luke, yeah. Last little bit here for our Red Slipper series. Um, and I might just make sure your volume's turned up just good to make sure everything is really heard. People are going to listen into this last one a little bit. Who's to know? We'll do some more shows. What would we do? We'll think about that. But basically, really, should people learn more that the amount of stars that they have or as a national American on a passport, really it is what the capacity that you have to be on the do not detain list. Where somebody becomes automatic of what their status is, they could be on that do not detain list. As a red screen that could come up where something is for anybody which says certain things on that screen, and nobody would say whether they, as an official, what was on the screen or anything, because that's sort of in the private where something is. But it's the fact that where you go forward and you correct your status and stuff, you can be ended up more where this is. And so you can have an ID that's like this. But just imagine that doesn't exist. You haven't done anything, and now you're there, and you've got two things which could be going on. Something could be detained, that means that some suspicion of some circumstances existed, and you need to know what that is, perhaps, and be clear of what that is itself. So that's sort of just a detainedness. Whereas arrestedness is something else, where somebody is more ordered, and is it an order or is it a suggestion? It could be asked whether anything is. But could somebody state that no harm, injury, cost, or damage existed, and that one is under oath? Those are things which you could say where anything is, and you're placing somebody helping you, where you're describing the nature of things. To be able to say that you're a man or a woman travelling, or you have a right to safe harbour and safe passage, and you'd like to know if any information that you gave the individual that was asking you could be used against you, and they're obliged to say yes, it could be. And so then I can ask, am I obliged to have given anything under the circumstance of that? And the answer is no. And if something else was, well, then it becomes an order, which you could invoice where something is, but you're still requesting various information, and you haven't given anything. You see, because what reason exists for that? The moment that you give something, as just I said, that's done for what something is, because you've given authority over where something is itself. But first you need to know if there was any harm, injury, cost, or damage, and get that cleared up straight away, because it can not be anything such like that. And you can't accept that a corpse could be injured. That's not so. And you weren't under a corporate contract where anything happened such, or something wasn't really, you were informed or anything. But so no, you haven't been informed of anything. So, so first and then otherwise it could be said that I don't want any deal to go south. I'd like to make sure that I'm dealing with somebody who does have some insurance, and with your insurance, you see, your foreign agent's insurance, because everybody should have that. That's very important, because they're making issue with something which really, often many of these things go a long way before, long more than 9 months of any settledness, and has massive amounts of payments which occurred from things which go on where no harm, injury, cost, or damage was, because the law was put under a shall or a will. And so no harm, no injury was, you see. And somebody can be admitted to such, but could be even asked that what is the detention for, or harm, or what, and can hear what that is, and to be some complaint of what that is. It's just not anything. But not anything has occurred after that, you see, because only somebody would have a right to have received something, but you've just put them at where something is, because only they could receive that, if they were able to give you some reason for something which is probable but isn't, because you could be not under a contract of something that's commercial per se. And can that be said? Yes, it can be. And so where someone is looking, they could have their ID, and shouldn't we all have a real true name and ID? I'd say so, because now you're going to have investment come from all over and have something global more, be protecting of everything, which we should. And so the amount of stamps that you have where your ID really is, it's really indicative of the level of security more that you've set up. And in the private, it's possible for you to really set pretty good security up. You could even give monies to help departments make sure they did fix something up for you. You could learn how to do that. But anyway, the passport that you give could always have a higher clearance more if you're set it up that you're the private foreign national or the national that's travelling. And then that it's really that you're really ordering the highest level more that can exist for yourself, which is the security agreement that you have, because you've got a security between your credit and debit. It means that you're aware of what this is. Now, you could go forward and to do agreement and things from such, you could, yes, but it's the fact that actually that's something which you already have a reversionary interest in because you're the owner of a perfected certificate of title. And whether you're the holder of that in your hands, you're the owner of this. And if you could, anybody would have to challenge what that is, that it's not possible for someone, unless that's actually false, which isn't. And so litigation isn't necessary where you are, because it's possible for you to have put an affidavit on the file where anything is with an addendum, and even put that into your own trust, which is that your passport and in your application is as a foreign national, you see, and now isn't just the registration necessary for the Secretary of the Treasury, which can be given notice of in your trust, irrevocable trust. And so now you've given notice to the state because you did this. You got your document where it was done, and you put this in to your trust. What you've done is to go forward, and you've used an SS5 to assist to help you with a passport process, because you're correcting your proper status. You're giving them the form that you filled out to show that. So, and now what you've done is to show the agencies where anything is, to have any questions that's existed that could be beforehand, straight up there. Your number on your passport can show you and give you what this correct status is. And so one would learn how to use various forms like 1099s and 1096s and 1040s or 1040 NRs if you're foreign national, 8281s, W8 Ben, SS5, and okay. Somebody just made note of those, and you learn what each of these exists, because it's sort of really simple that you could give a form that ask somebody being a trustee to help you fill out what that is. And it could be easy for you to put a process forward because you're asking who some trustee is to help you with the matter of what that is. But shouldn't there be some knowledge of what it is a little bit? It's something which you and I, where people could learn more about, and some guidance could be. But basically, by your declaration of your status of correction, which is that SS5, you're helping verify more that you're on the private side by what you've done and who the principal of the matter is. And one of the people who comes to be such can't be a voter after such, where you've organised things for such, because you're no longer a corporate citizen, you see. And it couldn't be that you would, after this, be able to hold a private corporate position in the courts. You can't. It's not press public. And then put it aside because one of the people, are private, and you have, as a capacity of being listed this way, more an indemnity bond that you could set up any time where something was, like we talked about, by asking for that to be done. And that the trade that you have really is not subject to domestic condition to have taken any service for you're actually in equity, you see, and because you could have gone forward and listed yourself to be the holder of the name by going to the Department of the Secretary in Minnesota and things, and got that done and things. Or you could say that you to do such, you could put such in your trust and say that this would be done. But you've got 42 USC and 1983 civil action, which just put that in brackets because you say you've got the law really that is just to help protect you from the deprivation of rights under the colour of law. And this is in your declaration, which you could state where you are to get this proper. And so really every beloved really is otherwise under a code or some legality otherwise and subject to anything which would have been as a corporate, as a corporate citizen versus a citizen of the state, and that you've got a natural right as a suit which is in equity more, you see, administratively, not litigation-wise, but it shouldn't be for the wrong permission where anything is yet by due diligence done by the official, and that all things be done under Article 3 or 4, which you could ask for, which you would order, because you're a national. And so in this, which really means that you've got a word that's used that really is that, you know how to conduct your own business, you see. And to state such, yes, and to defend such, and that you're not a ward as could have been defined, and that won't be quashed because you've got a private confidential posted bond which you set up at the court. Yes, you could just state that. You could have everything put onto a letter of interrogatory. It could be stated that you're forwarding all such, which is handwritten up, and you could even handwrite it if you like, and put this under a common administrative court of record to be received and put onto a calendar where something was quashed and discharged as a matter. And so you could use everything which we've talked a bit about, or even just one of these letters, and then you'll turn in the paperwork, which is into a check if something was given. But if something wasn't, what you've just said is you've asked people for their foreign agents' insurance registration plus their anti-bribery insurance bond, because otherwise, like the deal that they're doing is taking you south, because they had to listen to you to hear the nature of the course of action where something is going on. It should be paused, very important to hear what the nature is, but you'll hear a lot of these people in the courts and even in Congress and places that just say, put aside the nature of things, and then they'll talk about a cause of action. And does anybody know what the meaning of that is, what they just did? It's truly disastrous, honest. And it's endemic, this problem. And so you're handing things into the clerk, and you could put this into the county to get it filed, and so then it's just got a filed document, and now you can use that document then to put that into wherever some circumstances. And you could also put this in the trust as an agreement. And so once it's gone through and forward, what does that document do but give you what this is itself? And what you did just say was that this is under the perjury, penalties of perjury, as to the truth and nothing but the truth, and you've got this witness and everything. There you go, you've got a document which says this, and now, do you have proof of all of it? Hell yes, you use just your ticket or whatever it was to do this, why should you not do that? Because you're correcting things, but you're getting something from it. You're redeeming value if you put it in terms that it's a adverse counterclaim. Anyway, what do? Keep it simple where things are. You always hand things in, so you've got into the library, where into the clerk at the county, and you've got stamps and copies and things, and everything was there put under penalty to juror of perjury. And so, if anything was to come up now after that, you've got that international IRS number, which is important because you can call them and they could be assisted to help you correct and put things as should be, and they can advise you where or what to do a bit in things. But you ought to know what position that you have where you've done this, which that's pretty easy. You're learning how to get your EIN number, so that it's supportive of what this is as a national. And so that number is 12679411099. And that's the international IRS number. And that's a big campus, and people are trained specifically that relate to more issues that you ought to, use this department to help correct the things, and then give those letters and things to the Treasury as a copy. And so now you've done your part, and you've organised things so that you've connected your trust to your EIN number. And so let's see what could be left for us to think about a little. Personally, I think it's really amazing that somebody could go forward and they could just let you know that it's really what is the difference between being detained and being arrested, and what rights that you might have where you are. But it's really often a crisis even beyond where everybody is. And shouldn't it be that everyone is really caring about asking where the Administrative Council is and taking their issues to the Administrative Council, so those are issues that could be dealt with, and it's dealt with on a level that's like we're talking about. But what happens where you've got the private prison system and they're not caring too much about what light that you have, and you could have permanent light left always on, and material that can't take the dark out, and even if no matter what that you put on of that colour, it won't let you see dark, but it's the opposite, in fact. And so that colour orange and that's chosen, and then the lights being on forever, where something is, this is really a form of slavery and punishment that's unordinary, really, and it's not commensurable to where anybody is. And we should all be looking at why should private prison systems have existed or come to be, and are they just skimming to make a profit? We might have to cut some of these things out. I don't know. Let's see. But
I think so.
In my thinking, that I just thought and saw a lot of condition goes on where somebody doesn't have a proper ID, and shouldn't all people have a true ID, not one that's just crazy. It's really important that you could pay attention to what this whole issue is, and isn't this some issue that a Administrative Council should look at to assist, to help with the people and take public policy to be. But many spend days indoors. Couldn't you say that? It's true. And the days that they look and see isn't the levels of vitamin D, things that's like that. Product which we have really some of the best in the world, which really is vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. And it really aren't these the very things which shows the prevention of disease? And shouldn't information be toward a longer life? But it isn't under ages, and it's not proper that they would cause you to live longer than 60, apparent. And so is that right? Proper public policy? No, it isn't. You see, you've got many a wastedness of trillions every year which goes into all sorts of diseases and things. And get, I think just like having intelligence of optimized levels of vitamin A and vitamin E and vitamin D and things like that, vitamin L, like life hydrate, that ameliorate and cause you to have a great saving, because it really can cause you to have great surfactant or not. But lots of circumstances existed, isn't it? Which is a bridging of right, where someone's taken in their body and kidnapped and false imprisoned or false arrest and things. And the body then is used for all sorts of things, which it could be another show where we talk a bit about that. But just to wrap this up a little bit about the red slippers, isn't it wise that you act to be sure, and this is your red slipper, is what we've just given you? And that otherwise, of course, just like having enough vitamin D, which really could cause you to have the really fantastic ability to be able to recover. And like the Jubb's nootropic conditioner that we have, we give you 250,000 sort of units really more of vitamin D, which really is active enzymatically and all done cold processed. Vitamin A, which is plant-based, which is rare. That's really rare. And you've got a benefit really of some nootropic within your own self, because you could be relaxed more and things in life. But you've got a great conditioning of vitalizing of all the passageways of the cells inner wise, and that the vitamins always are working more together, where some tandemness is to produce sort of something which is a proper investment where you are. And isn't this just like what we've been talking about in all of its respect? But vitamin D levels, which is like 60 nanograms per like milliliter, if it's over that, good. But otherwise, isn't it that you've got, if it's lower, an 80% more lower, a higher risk of neoplasm and things, but if it's above you, you're more safe? Yes, it's incredible to want to look at what the statistic is to show. And anyway, if we look at prisons and things and such, the environment where people are put, would anybody say that costs that be cut and that criminals, or is it that some crime was actual, or is it some people being put away like from pocket judgment? I would say yes, that's so. Well and truly it is. And you've just got winners or losers where something is, and who's winning where that is in that court system, and who's losing. And what's the value of life that's grim, where some predatorial system has been, and shouldn't you really have awareness not to be under a dead man statute? And yet, where we have a lot of things which we could help correct straight away, you've got a lot of conditions that goes on where fentanyl, for instance, is being so manufactured ongoing, where things are in the United States and other places. And isn't that a war on everyone? Just the same as what's COVID, and not having proper conditions, which we should, if you listen to our red slippers, have an effect to help, how currency is being put and placing security over all. It's up to congressional committees and people such learned to assist to be helping what this is with the people, see, and that it's order that you would need to ask for things such. And it's really because the system really is in need of administrativeness more, where you or I are, and to create proper public policy where things are. But otherwise, you could see, of course, a crisis, whichever is, and these are things which could be addressed more by we the people, and which is the government. So it's not your or my or anybody being against anything, but you certainly really are against error, because you can correct such as a mistake before it's an error. But the private prison system really is a systematic error. Often you could see big time pocket judgments being and loss of equity because somebody was placed under something which you could see what goes on But if just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is every little pill that's made, is just beyond what would be a lethal dose, and they're made to be candified, and you can see how overdosedness is, and it's so small amount, mate, that is incredible, you see. So it stops respiration and these sorts of things, but is it that you can see people in desperation have done all sorts of things because why? Well, the system isn't being kind to anyone, and shouldn't that be corrected? Yes, it should. Yes, it should. But it's really a prolonged contraction where anybody is, where life is shut off for their own self. And what do you do, or what can you do? But fentanyl is really a contraction slow, which causes finally lung function not to happen proper like it is. And 2 milligrams is so small, it's just really 2,000 micrograms, really small. And it's a very simple dose of what that is fatal, you see. So every pill is fatal. And if it's candified to make it look bright and pretty, which that's how that is that just also some causeness of some waters to be depopulatedness? And you see, look, there's issues that relate to a democracy, which isn't a republic per se, and shouldn't issues and things that relate to this be corrected? Personally, you and I can, and we should, and that's very important, because otherwise you don't have any public policy proper to assist to help, and you've got lots of levels of false wounds people go into, which cause all sorts of addictiveness to certain things and what have you. But just for the record, where anybody is, without prejudice, of course, one could see that there's any system that had some error, and why not assist, because you've got some administrative counsel, which really, wrapping it up more, is really by your more special appearance in the court where you are individually. But isn't this exact? Yes, it is. And an Article 3 and Article 4 court where a grand jury would be itself. Yes, it is. Same thing. Equity on both sides. And this is really above the court. And so it is. And that all corporate sheriffs below what the bailiff is that's selected. And one of the people, which is other people that hold position where that is, it's quite remarkable. Nobody can cross them because they are the ones whose representatives are given something to do by we the people, you see? Yes? And so, wow, yes, this is the chain of command. They're very important, of course, because if everyone would have just submitted to some court jurisdiction without having proper reasoning behind that, you didn't discover what the nature was, it would be really only under a dead man statute that you would have been operating ever, and only failure often, because really shouldn't it be in your own suit where you are? Yes, I think so. And the care of really the information that we're sharing, crime really is risen because where something isn't check and balance on anything, you've got really stuff going on there, haven't you? But you've really got an examinedness that should be, which really is the nature, yes, right, of the matter of things. And it's really new ways where you've got otherwise private prisons are making billions otherwise. And isn't that coming out of a systematic error? And if you've got massive amounts of people, like African Americans, for instance, incarcerated 5 times more than the rate perhaps that white people would have been, isn't something wrong? Which sure is something disproportionate about any crime. If it was, how could somebody be just only one part of something and not anybody else? Doesn't make sense, you see? No, it doesn't. You've got a private profit from prisons which should really be looked at well and truly quick smart, because it's really not right, well and truly, because you're looking at trade in themselves, actually what the real estate is. And when we look behind the picture, that's the sacred cow behind the whole picture, isn't it? And isn't it that the Administrative Council really could pull us out of all of such an array of all such predatorial types of environment? Absolutely, it can. And for quorum sensing, which really should be, which really is needed more to bring back common custom? Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Yeah? Anyway, I think having a perfect more condition where things are domestic and also international, I personally feel people should have good security where they are, shouldn't they? And they should come from more of this a 5-star, more as they can on a national passport. Yes? Right.
Yeah.
And all this, like what we're talking about, is really to do with a real true ID on it. And then would you be able to take care of things or otherwise? Gosh, there's a lot of circumstances. Couldn't you see it where people really are at risk big time because often things is like what we brought up, they don't even have enough vitamin D. Yeah? Anyway, I hope everybody who's been listening to this Red Slipper series has got a good benefit from everything. I'd recommend that people go back and listen to pieces of what this is, and something exists which is really yours and my common relation where we are, and just describing this where words is, and something as simple as you being able to just say this and know what the whole thing is, your own self. Yes, why shouldn't it be? Yes. And so I think what I did was to just give you what this is, because just for me, not where anything is, but you'd be just a student listening, and I'd give you some lessons where you are. You could be on track where something is. Yes, I think that's really important. Anyway, for everybody listening, Lukey, tune in. We've got some really great shows coming up, and love you guys. We'll catch up to each other in a future show.
Thank
Love
you
you,
so
mate.
much, Dr. Jubb.
Great. Okay.